Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am GM Bloodworth, and today I'm going to be doing a even more focused deep dive into Adventures Dark and Deep character creation, and I'm going to focus on secondary skills. In my last episode, a comment came in the comments section, which I really do appreciate. Basically, the person came in and the person said that they're not fond of the idea of having to expend experience points in order to gain secondary skills. And then Joseph Block, the author of the system, chimed in and he said, basically, he he really does think it's a necessary thing. So I felt, what better way to give this commentary back and forth, a little bit more clarity, let's say, by actually focusing in on the secondary skills as a separate video. So that's why I am doing episode 3, focus in on secondary skills so that everyone involved might have a better understanding as I go through the entire system. The other reason why I want to focus on secondary skills is because, for this series of videos, what I was going to be doing all along is is showing the differences between Adventures Dark and Deep, AD&D First Edition, and AD&D Second Edition. And secondary skills is one of those areas that is handled very differently between the three different games. So I do want to focus in on how Joseph Block handles uh, secondary skills in Adventures Dark and Deep. The other thing that I wanted to announce during this video is, and I will make further videos on this upcoming topic, is that Joseph Block, who is the Greyhawk Grognard. So if you're not familiar with his channel, I highly recommend that you check out his channel. Not only is he, probably one of the best sources of information about the world of Greyhawk that's out there, but his ideas for game design and everything, going back to really tapping into Gary Gygax's vision of a game system, I think is really spot on. And the reason why I wanted to focus in on all of this right now is because Joseph Block just recently did a video where he mentioned the fact that he is planning to do a new Kickstarter to to launch not quite a second edition of Adventures Dark and Deep, but certainly a new format and repackaging, going to a 2-book volume. One will be the player's manual and the game master's toolkit, and then the other will be just the bestiary. So 2 hardcover books, and I'm really excited about that because he said he's going to take also that opportunity for some layout changes, additional art, and some rules, I guess, some rules tweaking and other general errata to take into effect as well. So really looking forward to that announcement of that Kickstarter. I can already say that there is a better than 90% chance that I will be backing that Kickstarter, and I'm really looking forward to it. So as I'm going through these videos where I'm still covering, the current, the current state of Adventures Dark and Deep, I will be looking for areas where I can drop these little suggestions or just things that I might think need tweaking, including just where I find typos and stuff like that as well. which I will have when I go into character creation in a video where I'm actually creating a character, because I did find, I think, one thing that I think was a typo. So, but without further ado, let's jump right into secondary skills. So I am going to make this, very much larger so that you can read along with me, and I am going to do a full read of this. So secondary skills. Every character is able to purchase secondary skills, or just skills, which will allow him to perform actions with a greater chance of success than a character that does not possess that skill. In some cases, possessing a skill is a requirement for doing a particular thing, but as a general rule, just because a character doesn't have the artistic capacity skill doesn't mean he can't compose a poem. It just means he probably won't compose as good a poem as someone who does have that skill. While most skills are by design rather generalized, some have various specialties listed. Construction, for instance, includes carpentry, engineering, and masonry, all under its rubric. Such skills require that the character choose from one of the specialties listed, so the character might choose construction, masonry as a skill. Characters may only choose one specialty under a particular skill at each experience level. It cannot be overemphasized that merely because a character doesn't have a secondary skill, it does not mean that that character is utterly incapable of performing functions that fall under its umbrella. Most characters will be able to swim, ride a horse, set an ambush, etc. Characters with skills in those areas will, in most instances, do those things better and faster than those without. Some skills, of course, are exclusive or dependent on the specific background of the character. Someone who has spent all his life in a desert would have little chance of knowing how to rig a square sail, and few characters would know how to forge a sword without direct instruction or experience. The game master should apply his discretion in all such cases. Secondary skills becomes a means for the player to role play his or her character's backgrounds, to a greater degree, and then be able to reflect that in an actual game mechanic enhanced way. So I think it does add a lot to your ability to role play your characters when you do have secondary skills. Oh, excuse me. Obtaining secondary skills. Skills are obtained by spending experience points, which are used to either obtain a new skill or gain an additional skill level in a skill he already possesses. A character can only spend experience points on the same skill once per experience level. If a player chooses to spend XP on a skill, those XP are forever lost, although new XP can or of course be earned to make up for that loss. Skills can be obtained at any point, but the game master may, at his discretion, require the character engage in some sort of study, training, or other experience to obtain the skill. The base XP cost of obtaining a given skill is listed in the particular description of that skill. For each additional skill level, the cost is equal to the base cost multiplied by the skill level being added. For example, if a character is adding a skill with a base cost of 3,000 experience points and already has 2 skill levels in that particular skill, the cost of the third skill level will be 9,000 XP. The base experience points cost of a skill sometimes is dependent on the attributes the character possesses, strength, intelligence, etc. If an attribute is listed, then the character can pay that price if the attribute is the highest he possesses, or is at least tied for highest. For example, a character with a strength of 12, an intelligence of 11, a wisdom of 14, a dexterity of 17, and a constitution of 15, a charisma of 15, would only pay 5,000 for the ambush skill, but would have to pay 8,000 for business. All right, and that's because the ambush skill is going to be based on the dexterity. There is no limit to how high a skill level a character can possess in a given skill. Optional rule: starting secondary skills. At the game master's discretion, first level starting characters can begin the game with one level in one secondary skill of their choice, assuming the choice of the skill is not inconsistent with the campaign setting. Characters with such a starting skills will suffer a 10% penalty to all XP earned until the cost of the secondary skills has been paid for. Once the full cost of the skill has been paid for, the character will earn XP at normal rate. Classes that are normally begun the game with a secondary skill, such as savants, may learn a second skill but may not opt to get a second level in the skill with which they normally begin the game. Using skills. Actually, before I go to using skills, let me take a look at some of this here and think about the XP cost and talk about one of the things that I can see as an issue here. So let me switch views here. So I can see where the commentator in the previous video was talking about the relative high cost of these secondary skills, and at some point these skill points and these XP expenditures are going to outweigh the value of taking the secondary skill. And looking at it even further and deeper here, once you start getting to, well, this secondary skill is going to cost you 9,000 experience points, that might be a significant amount of experience points that you would be expending and thus sacrificing going up a level. And I don't know very many players who would make that exchange. Yeah, sure, once you're super high level and everything, and it's like, oh, you need 180,000 experience points to go up to the next level. The player is already calculating, all right, that's going to take me, another 6 months, let's say, of gaining experience and, dozens of sessions of adventuring in order to accumulate that. And it might even take them longer. It might take them, years. It depends on really how much XP per session on average they're actually earning. So when it gets to that point, it's like, well, I'm not going to spend that, to get a secondary skill. And so here's my suggestion. My suggestion is that I would start every player character off with a single secondary skill that is cost free, and I would say that not that I'm going to reduce your XP by 10% moving forward, but I'm going to say that 10% of your XP is specifically like general purpose XP. It's XP that you have earned along the way that you can then choose to expend within the secondary skills realm, or you can put it towards gaining a level if you so choose to. Now, I didn't just say the same thing. You know, there is definitely a psychological difference between telling the player you're going to have a 10% reduction of XP while you pay for this skill. Uh, that's not the same thing as telling them, well, consider 10% of your XP that you earn is going to be in a general skills pool that you can then choose to spend um, on the secondary skills if you choose to do that. There's psychological difference in that is that you're making it seem like they have more of a choice, and they still do have a choice. But I'm saying it just sits with, I think, players differently when they're going to say, well, regardless, I'm always going to 90% of my experience is always going to go towards my level increases. And I'm opting to have that other 10% go there if I wish to. But it's really meant to be spent on secondary skills and kind of fleshing out my character and such. And even though mathematically it's the same thing, it just comes off differently. Um, but I would, in the case of that starting, I would have every single character start off with a secondary skill, and that would represent their background before having been brought up as an having shifted to becoming an adventurer. So, without further ado, let me jump back into the actual system. Okay, so we were about to go into using the skills. Each skill has one or more attributes listed, such as strength, intelligence, etc. When a character wishes to use one of his skills, the game master simply rolls a d20, subtracts 2 for every skill level the character possesses in that particular skill, and applies any other modifiers that might be applicable. If the modified roll is equal to or below the applicable attribute, the character has successfully used the skill. So, for example, let's say your character has a 17 dexterity, you're rolling a d20, you're minusing 2 from that. Then what you're basically doing is you're trying to roll a under a 17 with a -2 already attached to it. So the highest you can roll would be an 18, and at or below the character's ability is a 17 or below. So in virtually every case, when doing a secondary skill that requires one of the character's high attribute scores, they're almost always going to succeed. It should be remembered that the skill check will not be necessary for purely routine things. Yes, always try to avoid unnecessary dice rolling. They should only be required when the outcome would really be in doubt, when a failure would be catastrophic, or in a combat situation as applicable. In addition, the game master should feel free to apply situational modifiers as he sees fit, anything from a -8 for completely routine and novice level basics to a +10 for something regarding a nigh or onto impossible to achieve. When the use of the skill requires that another character make a saving throw or roll against some attribute, the character gets a -2 penalty to his roll for every skill level possessed by the first character. When a secondary skill has obvious applications to an ability, a class ability, or power, for example, the Mont Blanc applying the swindle skill to his verbal patter ability, the skill will provide either a +2 or a 10% bonus to their chance of success for every relevant skill the character possesses. So this does, to a certain extent, add, depending on how many skill levels they have in these secondary skills, these can become quite powerful. But again, they do have that XP expenditure that is going to be exponential as you're going from one skill level to the other. If it starts at 3,000, it will be 6,000 for the second level of it, 9,000 for the third level of it, and so on and so forth. So it's it will become very, very expensive to in XP in order to gain higher levels of those skills. Skills and commoners. Skills are the basis of which many commoners make their living. Rather than expending the time and effort to become one of the various character classes, such as a fighter, a druid, etc., they spend their formative years learning one of the following skills as their trade. They begin their career with but a single skill level in their chosen profession, but add to them gradually as the years wear on. There is no hard and fast rule for how fast a commoner will rise in the trade, but it would definitely be on the scale of years and decades. Note that some other skills are implied but not detailed herein, such as farming, brewing, etc. But because they don't have any sort of feasible impact on the life and career of an adventurer, the game master is free to detail such skills if he feels the need, of course, using the following as a guide. All right, so yes, and that's another difference between the secondary skills that you'll find in Adventures Dark and Deep compared to the non-weapons proficiency skills that you have in AD&D First Edition or the secondary skills that you have in Second Edition. There are far fewer here, but you're given the flexibility to add others as you see fit as a game master. Or if you're a player and you have a suggestion for your game master, you can also make those suggestions as well. So we have alchemy, we have ambush. Alchemy is obviously an intelligence-based, and I want to be clear how different these are from just simple secondary skills or non-weapons proficiency skills. Some of these, such as like alchemy and poison making and weaponsmithing and such, they can actually create a steady income stream for characters in between adventuring, or it could become a really important skill for them to have to better support the player party player party, I should say, and that things like alchemy and everything, they could start creating potions, and it becomes a much cheaper route of making sure everybody has a good stash of potions to use. And these can be magical and or non-magical potions. Ambushing, this skill allows the character to hide either objects or creatures, including himself, and set traps and snares. Hiding, similar to a thief's hide and shadows ability, cannot be done where there is nowhere to hide, and so on. So it just gives them a little bit of a bonus, the ability to do so. And I would give bonuses to a a thief, let's say, who has the ambush ability for their abilities here, even though it doesn't state precisely how much of a bonus you would do, but I would probably generically add like a 5% bonus per level that they have in here towards their various thieves skills. Animal training and handling, it's 3,000 for all. Um, Specialties within that is falconry, so that's a little bit more expensive because it is um, a much more precise skill or specific skill. Armor making, so cost is 3,000 for all. Um, at level one, you can make rings, scale, lamellar, brigadine, plus all helmets and shields. At second level, you can make plate armor, a plate mail. At third, you can make mail of, I guess, any kind. And at fourth, any. So it will naturally cost more for each level. And then here's the table for creation. Leather worker needed, and it will say yes or no. So leather worker must fall within a different category. And then we're going to continue on. Artistry, and then there are specialties. So just because you have one level of artistry, you have to say what form of artistry it would be in, whether it be drawing and painting, sculpting, writing, or music. Blacksmithing is based on strength. I'm surprised they don't have specialties within blacksmithing. Very different from, whether you're making horseshoes or arrowheads or whatnot. So, but they don't. They have, but a blacksmith would be needed for weaponsmith, for making these component parts. Bullying, it's again strength or charisma, so whichever one is your highest. Costs 3,000. This not only allows the character to intimidate someone else, but also make them more effective at non-weapon combat, such as punching and wrestling. When attempting to intimidate, it is the target that must make a successful wisdom check to avoid being bullied into compliance, with a +2 penalty for every skill level possessed by the character doing the bullying. For every skill, the character gets a +1 bonus to hit when using hand-to-hand combat, grappling and pummeling, etc. So yeah, it makes you much more. So that would really give the bully monk a big advantage here. That would be a great secondary skill for a monk. Business, I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but a skill encompasses knowledge of various things related to business, financing, banking, exchange rates, investing. So no haggling here. Charioteer, operation of a chariot. Every skill you get, every skill point you have in it, you can make a chariot go 30% faster than normal. All right, so that's pretty quick. You can get it up to near 100% or twice as fast with just 3 skill levels in it. Construction, and again, you have your specialty areas within construction, very important. Cooking, potentially no specialty areas unless the campaign setting allows. Excuse me. Love the wintertime. Courtly graces. Specialties are, etiquette, dance, courtly love. Detection. No specialties. I would kind of think that there would be, but okay. Espionage, again, no specialties. Once again, I think there would be. I would say it's more intelligence based than dexterity based, but fine. Farming, you could see the low cost of farming, right? So, fire building, I would say fire building should be low cost too. I would put fire building on the same level as farming, to be honest. Um, I mean, you're living in a genre, of fantasy, let's say medieval, thing, and anytime people do travel, I mean, they do need to set up a camp. So I would make that lower. I would make fishing lower. Um, Forgery is fine. Again, I don't know. I guess dexterity could play a role. I would um, I would include other attributes, whether it be intelligence or wisdom, in that. Generalship. This skill includes logistics, organization, strategizing, as well as battlefield leadership. Um, I would make it cheaper for some classes, let's say, like the Cavalier or even the Fighter, possibly. A Furrier, and they may actually be utilized for so they can earn money from pelts. They might also be needed for certain armor smiths. Healing, which is great. Now the healing is only between 1 to 2 points of damage. It's not a huge amount of healing, um, but a good secondary skill to have. Um, Horsemanship, 3,000. Hunting, 2,000. So again, they're getting closer to these are common things that commoners tend to do, so makes sense. Jewelry, um, it's such a perception based, ability, since they're doing like appraisal and everything. I mean, they have more skill checks against intelligence and dexterity. I guess that's fine. I don't know why dexterity is in there at all, to be honest with you. Um, Judgment, you see here, you have judgment, which is a wisdom, which I would attribute to jewelry as well. More so, it's kind of, or again, I'd put intelligence up here for jewelry more so than, um, and not dexterity at all. I don't get why dexterity's there. Music, poison. So poison's expensive. You see, this is one of the most expensive that I've seen. 12,000, and that's because you are gaining such a huge benefit in being able to brew poisons, and and that's something that's very, you know, very marketable for that. So depending on their skill level, the process requires a laboratory with some 2d6 2d6 times 100 gold pieces of equipment. Poisons can be brewed 50% of their listed cost. Note antidotes for ingested poisons can also be created by the character with this skill with similar requirements and cost. The amount of time required for brewing potions depends on the type. And we go over here. But yeah, I mean, I can see the high cost of experience because it is an exact science, right? You don't really want to mess up, especially if you're creating antidotes for various types of poisons as well. Scholarship, okay, a little bit high, I guess, but seamanship 3,000. Suborning, the skill allows a character to blackmail, bribe, influence, and convince others. 5,000 charisma base certainly makes sense there. 5,000 a little bit expensive, but okay. Swindling, charisma 5,000 allows a character to gamble, cheat, plan, and execute confidence games, defraud others, and everything. Good thief skill. I would definitely do that as a thief. A thespian is an actor. Um, They do have specialties within acting and disguise, tracking. This would be really, really good. Only 2,500 too. That's a good expenditure to have tracking ability. Um, for just 2,500 experience points, every character has the ability to track. I would definitely do that. Um, Wainwright is making repairing wagons and such. Weapon making. So this is going to allow specialties for Boyer and Swordsmith, and they go into the times per month. Number created per month, so you can make 8 bastard swords per month, 30 daggers per month, and so on and so forth. They don't tell you how quickly you can make the bows, though, when they included bows. So interesting. Woodcrafting. Interesting. I'm looking at it down here, and I see. Um, so there is. Oh, it's woodcraft. Woodcraft. Sorry, not woodcrafting. Woodcraft. Tropical jungles, temperate forests, cold forest, steppe, desert. It's kind of like a survival skill within different types of wooded areas. And I was going totally a different direction. I was going more of a crafting skill with it. But looking at it, I was like, why are you climbing better in those things and such? So, that's interesting. So that is that is pretty much a more in-depth look at it. Um, you know, I certainly see why expending the experience points makes sense on it, because in most cases they do give you a significant advantage in a variety of different ways. It gives you earning potential for some of those that are crafting based secondary skills. And so the expenditure of XP to have that access, I think, um, in a long form campaign actually makes a lot of sense. Um, Again, I would just do that little change up in saying, hey, you know what? And you set this up in session zero. You basically you inform your players that this is the way it's going to work, but you empower them to make that choice of exactly how and when they want to spend those experience points. But I would just basically have them have two separate pools of experience points. There's one that they've earned that's going directly towards their level, and then 10% of the overall experience point is getting sidelined for secondary skills. And then when it comes time for them to go up a level, let's say, you can then have them make the decision. Well, I'm going to put my general pool towards leveling up rather than, um, or I'm going to just wait a little longer to level up, and I'll keep that pool to put towards a secondary skill, or they might have it at some point. So you're not diminishing the amount of skill points that they're actually, or I should say XP that they're actually gaining. You're just allowing them to compartmentalize the types of experience they do have and give them the choice on how to spend it. I think that it works out to the same thing mathematically, but psychologically, I think it plays a better role in making them make those choices, those decisions, and such. So, yeah, I mean, I really like the system. I think that it could use a little bit more of a little bit more of a nuance to it. A few more skills thrown in there as a preset, because I know that there's a lot of situations where it'll be fairly common for players to ask their game master, hey, well, why don't we include this particular secondary skill and everything? I can see that happening somewhat frequently. So it is a very, very short list. Um, but I think that it could use some expansion as well. And I would certainly start everybody off with at least one free secondary skill, because that just makes sense and it does support. Um, I think it supports role playing a little bit better as well. It creates a secondary background skill that your character had before the character switch to adventuring. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I, of course, welcome any questions or comments coming in here. And as you can see, and as I've always said, I try to respond to comments in my comments section. It's why I value them so much. And it is from your comments that you drive my content. Absolutely love that about this channel, my subscribers, and the pastors, the pastors through. For those pastors through, please consider subscribing. The more and more that you're here, and the more frequently that you follow these videos, the more that you'll feel comfortable in leaving comments and everything. And as I've just demonstrated, your comments drive the content that is on this channel. I value the number of comments more so than simple views or even thumbs up or anything like that. Your comments are gold to me. So I appreciate every single one of them, including the ones that I don't understand or the ones that I am conflicted by or challenged by or whatever. They're all super, super important for me. And I love comments that support, as well. So, those are always welcome as well. But thanks for stopping in. I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. Remember to like and subscribe and comment. And, have a couple of conventions coming up. So the next planned one is in April, so that's not all that far off. And so maybe I will catch you at Rising Phoenix Game Con in April in Milton, at Massachusetts. And that's April, I think it's like April 20, 21, 22. I'm not quite sure. I'll come back with a video on that as well. So you have a great day. Take care.